Hey guys, welcome back. Alicia here. I'm popping on to make a real quick video because the very first thing that I purchased for the Appalachian Trail has come in the mail today. And as promised, I wanted to go over what it is, some quick stats about it, and then show you guys what it is and how to set it up. So the first thing I ordered was my tent. So with the Appalachian Trail, the first three things that people usually get squared away are referred to as the big three. That's your tent, your backpack, and your sleeping system, whether that be a sleeping bag or a quilt. And that's my cat in the background yelling because he's hungry. So anyway, the first thing that I purchased then was my tent system. I didn't want to go cheap on a tent since I will be spending about 5 to 6 months of my life sleeping in it. So I kind of splurged on a ZPacks Duplex tent. It's a 2-person tent. The company is ZPacks. And I want to say it was about $600, but they do offer payment through Affirm, so you can make monthly payments over 12 months. So that's what I'm doing. I figured I'm going to be sleeping in this. I want something that is good quality. It's not going to leak if it rains, and it's easy to set up and is lightweight. So ZPacks is kind of the gold standard for ultralight backpacking and is a pretty popular brand for people who do the Appalachian Trail. So just some quick stats about it. It's a 2-person tent. You can fit 2 people in it with a tight squeeze, I think, from what I've heard and read. Definitely 1 person comfortably with gear is plenty of room. So most of the time, of course, it'll be just me. We do plan on having Jordan sleep in the tent with me when he does join me on the trail. The tent we currently have now is an REI Half Dome 2, I think. And it looked like the footprint of that tent is similar to the ZPacks tent that we got. So you know, neither of us are super big. We're pretty short, sort of small statured people. So I don't think we'll have any problem sleeping in this duplex tent together when he is out. And like I said, it'll only be a few nights here and there, so nothing too major. It is 19 ounces for just the tent itself. And so when I say tent, I mean the tent and the stuff sack that it comes in. The stakes are sold separately, so I did purchase 8 titanium stakes from ZPacks, and those come in at like 0.3 ounces each, so super light. So the tent itself, 19 ounces, is 1.19 pounds. Really lightweight. It's a single-walled tent, so a traditional tent that you think of that might have all those poles and everything, usually you have the mesh domed piece of the tent, and then you have a separate rain fly that goes over it. That would be what is called a 2-walled tent, where you have 2 walls for the entire tent. That inner mesh wall and then the outer rain fly. This is a single wall tent. So what that means, in portions of the tent, there's just going to be 1 wall between me and the elements. However, it is a really strong, durable, waterproof fabric. It's Dyneema composite fabric is what it's called. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I'm like rushing to try to film this video before it gets dark outside. So I want to run through all this so I can get outside, set up the tent, and show you guys before light falls. Anyway, it's a Dyneema composite fabric. It's pretty lightweight, obviously, and it's really durable, actually, even considering how lightweight it is. It's waterproofed. It has taped seams. It's super easy to do field repairs. They have this tape that they send along with it that you can just patch any little tiny holes that might form, or if there's leaks anywhere on a seam. Super easy to patch. And there is a fully enclosed insect screen. So despite it being a single wall tent, you know, obviously you do have your vestibule area. So where you have a vestibule and the tent itself separates from the inner portion of the tent, where an inner portion traditionally would be, they do have screening there. So that way you can sleep with a vestibule door open, or, you know, getting in and out, you can unzip the vestibule, get in with a separate zipper, screened zipper. This is a trekking pole tent, so there's no traditional poles involved with the tent. Usually with a tent you have collapsible, foldable metal poles that kind of hold up the framework of a tent. This tent here does not have any poles. What you actually use are your trekking poles. So trekking poles, most people will hike with these anyway, and why carry extra poles when you can just set up your tent with these? So the tent gets set up with these. These are actually what hold up the structure of the tent, along with guy lines and just staking everything out and tension. So I'll be taking these out with me to set it up. There is a pretty deep bathtub in the tent, and the bathtub is made of more durable, stronger Dyneema composite fabric, so you don't actually need a ground tarp or anything underneath this. You can certainly put one if you'd like, but because the bathtub is so strong and durable and waterproof, you don't need any extra protection if you don't want to, so save a little bit on weight there. The lifespan of this on ZPacks website, it says it will endure an entire 2,500 plus mile through hike. So the Appalachian Trail is 2,190 miles. So this should last me the entire AT. Or for a casual user, you can get many years use out of this tent. So let's take it out and set it up and see how that goes. I've heard the first couple times setting this up can be kind of tricky, especially if you've never set up a trekking pole tent before. So it might take me a couple tries. It came with instructions, so let's cross our fingers and hope that it isn't too challenging. Luckily, I have 1.5 years before I hit the AT, so I have plenty of time to practice putting this up. All right, let's go. set it up. It wasn't too bad to set up, but I definitely think that I have some adjusting to do because the inside just looks a little loose. So if I were out, like, I think I would maybe pull the corners tighter, because you know they should sort of be deep like this in the corner here and here, and those two over here don't quite look it, so I definitely have some practicing to do, but it does look pretty roomy for two people. There's some pockets on the inside for storing things. Yeah, I think it's gonna work out pretty good. You can kind of see it's a little bit, I don't know if you can see actually in the video, but this fabric is a little bit see-through, and that's really just the light that will get through the fabric. They specifically call out on the website and in other vlogs that I've watched that while people will be able to see like your figure or your shadow, if you have a light on in here and it's dark out, they'll be able to see your shadow, but not specific. So, you know, if I'm changing in here, they're not going to be able to see me naked or anything like that. But it's supposedly pretty cool at night. If the stars are really bright, you can still see them through the tent, which is nice. But yeah, so this right here is the wall to the outside of the tent. So that's where that single wall description comes into play. And then we've got this, you can see it over here, this bug net screen mesh that fully encloses the inside of the tent where the vestibule is. So yeah, that was the ZPacks Duplex tent. I'm excited to try it out in person, see how it does in the elements and in the cold. I will just say here there are some cons to single-walled tents. The primary one being internal condensation inside the wall of the tent. Since it is just that single tent wall, at night, you know, when the air gets cold and you're inside the tent producing warmer air, there can be condensation that develops on the inside of that single walled tent wall, which can potentially drip down on you, or you know, you can rub against it with your sleeping bag. And if you have a down sleeping bag, you know that's not good to get down wet. So that is one downside for having a single wall tent versus a double wall tent. Double walls, you know, that condensation will form on that outermost layer, and then there's space between the two layers so that most of that wetness doesn't ever make it inside of the tent. I have heard that there are ways to kind of eliminate that risk from happening on a single wall tent for the condensation to form. You know, making sure the tent's ventilated if possible, positioning the tent in specific ways or directions from the sun and under trees. So I just have to do a little bit more research to sort of see what I need to do and what I need to be aware of when setting up the tent on the trail. And then also people will just honestly bring in sort of a microfiber towel with them into the tent. And if they start seeing that moisture starting to develop inside the tent, you know, just wipe it down and dry it off. And most of the reviews I've read for the duplex is that the condensation issues aren't too bad. You can easily ventilate the tent and still stay warm. So like I said, I'll just start doing some research, make sure that I know what to be aware of, how to eliminate that risk as much as possible. But otherwise, I think it's going to be a pretty good tent. I really liked how lightweight it is. It's very packable. The color's pretty, which is always a plus. And it was really easy to set up, surprisingly, for the very first time. You know, of course, I've got some things to do here and there to tweak it and get it more taut, which would also help reduce that condensation risk. But overall, you know, it was a really easy up. I think I had it up in less than 5 minutes, and really easy to get down too. So I think it's going to be a good investment. But yeah, hopefully I can get out. You know, it's sort of getting a little bit too cold to get out right now. So hopefully sometime next summer I can go on a little backpacking trip to test out the tent and see how well it does. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this helpful or at least interesting. I'll be continuing to do these types of videos as I get more and more gear in. If you have any questions about the tent or about anything else related to the Appalachian Trail, of course, please post them in the comments below. Or if you know me personally, you can shoot me a message, you know, text, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And I'll be glad to answer that for you. So until then, happy trails.